Greetings, everybody out there. I am Baba Makanjuola of powerofori.com. That's powerofori.com. I am Baba Makanjuola. I want to welcome you to another episode of Change Your Mind. Sometimes you got to renege on the past to be true to your future. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to have a quick discussion and talk a little bit about that today. Welcome in. Remember, if you're new to this, go ahead and click the subscribe button and click the bell and stay tuned for new stuff coming. We drop stuff every week, at least 2 videos and 2 conversations a week. We drop them here. Content. You know what I'm saying? So I want to ask my people a question here. And today's topic is the focal point of spirituality is ORI. And for those who may not know what ORI is the mind. ORI is the head. It's not the skull, it's not your ears, it's not that. It's the engine inside of your head we call a brain. That is the ORI. So the focal point of all spirituality, I don't care what you practice. If you're in Ifa, the focal point is ORI. If you're in Islam, the focal point is your mind. If you're in Christianity, the focal point is your mind. If you're in Hinduism, the focal point is your mind. It doesn't matter what you do. The focal point of any spiritual practice you take on is your mind. Now, why are we talking about this today? I'm going to speak about this from a standpoint of Ifa because that's what I do. Okay? So if you do something different than Ifa, just kind of plug in what you do to these questions that I'm going to ask. All right? So this topic comes up because it's a lot of situations going on in particularly Ifa. And I've seen it in other ones because I've been in Islam. I've definitely been in Christianity. And everything that I've seen is kind of the same thing. All right. So I'm making this topic today because I want to address the importance of ORI and the mind in spirituality that tends to get lost, especially in Ifa. You see, I'm going to ask a question. What is the purpose of a deity of any sort without your ORI, without your mind? What would that deity be doing if it wasn't for your mind? Let's take it a step further, or maybe backwards in this case. Let's walk down the hill on this because the deity is at the top of the hill. So let's walk down the hill on this one. So walking down the hill, what is the purpose of an initiation without having access to the mind of the person being initiated? Think about that. Let's keep going down the hill. What is the purpose of a reading or an offering or a sacrifice or a dafa or feeding ebo without the mind? If ORI is not the center space or center point or focal point to this concept, then you tell me what is. You see, some people tend to believe that it's the deities or even the God. The focal point to you in this life, in this physical life, is your ORI. Everything that I just named has to tap in to your ORI. Without your ORI, it would just be fiddling his thumbs and sitting on something else and doing something else. It would not have anything to do with human beings, because if human beings didn't have an ORI, then what would they be doing here in the first place? As we study ORI, ORI is the place where your destiny resides. It has been planted for life. That is what they're tapping into when you get a dafa, when you get initiated. When you sit on the mat, and it's not what that Babalawo is saying, it's what the spirit is tapping into, and it can only tap into your mind. Because that's where the seeds of your destiny are planted. That's why the focal point is you. Now, we tend to have placed focal points elsewhere. We've placed focal points on orishas. We've placed focal points on ancestors. We've placed focal points on initiations even. We've placed focal points on babalaos and people with titles and nice African garments. We've placed focal points on everything but the star player in this game called life, and that's your mind. I know Cat Williams had this thing talking about his star player on one of his episodes, and he was right. I mean, the star player that he's talking about in this realm is your mind. It's you. It's the thing that makes you tick. And we've taken this concept. I gave an analogy earlier today talking to some of my people about, we've taken like imagine a car and someone taking a tire off of the car to sell it to somebody else, but selling it to them as the car. That is a piece of the car. That is not the car. So if you imagine life, your ORI, you, the being that car. If you imagine Ifa even being, because remember, ORI functions within the system of Ifa, or whatever system that you follow. If you follow Christianity, your mind functions within that. If you follow Islam, your mind functions within that, because as you are reading these texts, as you are being taught, guess what's absorbing this information? Your ORI. And then as you absorb it, you come up with thoughts, and you come up with ways, and you come up with ways of moving because of what you're learning. All of that is absorbed in your ORI. So if we're going to take bits and pieces off of this car called Ifa and remove ourselves from that equation, that's where we go wrong at. That's where we go wrong at. You see, Ifa is the system. It's the car. But see, the engine of Ifa is ORI. If you lift up the hood of the engine of the car called Ifa, you're going to see an engine called ORI. ORI is the thing that makes this thing work. If without ORI, you don't have Ifa, because there would be no reason for the system. The system, what is Ifa? Let's talk about that. I made a couple of videos on it. You can go watch that on another episode. But what is Ifa? Ifa is the system that human beings need to tap into from time to time throughout their lives to make sure that they stay on their path. It helps them to figure out their path and helps them to stay on their path. It is the shell of the car. It is the navigational system, the tires, the cars, the trunk, the engine hood itself, the trunk, all of these things. It is the thing that helps this person on its path to its destiny throughout its life. But if you pull this car over called Ifa and lift up the hood, you're going to find the ORI. And when it breaks down and that car starts breaking down, that centerpiece that you're going to have to fix is the engine. And the engine is your mind. It's really that simple. This focal point of all spirituality, I don't care what no one says. Prove me wrong if I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, I will stand down and bow down. But the focal point to all of this is ORI. If you don't take the time to fix your own mind, You can't blame anybody else for your own demise. You just can't. There's too many Odus. There's too many Odus pointing the finger at the power of Ori. It's too many Odus pointing the finger at the position of Ori within this concept of Ifa. It's even in Christianity. It's in a lot of things. It's in everything that you do. It's in everything that you do. Let's talk about this real quick. What is the purpose of an Ebo? What does Ebo do for you? And I'm talking to my Ifa people now who know what I'm talking about. What is the purpose of an Ebo? And technically, we got to start with the Dafa process. What is the purpose of a Dafa and then an Ebo? What is the reason for that? There's so many different things you can say, right? But the number one reason why you do it, there's a saying in Christianity even. They say God helps fools and children. God helps and protects fools and children. So, a Dafa and an Ebo is the same thing. It gets the creators, it gets the deities, it gets the ancestors' attention to come help this fool who doesn't know any better, because you're only coming to this help because you've lost your way. If you knew what you were doing and you knew your way, you would not need so many Dafas and Ebos. It just wouldn't happen. So since you don't know your way, I got to protect him, or I got to protect her. And that's what Dafas and Ebos are for. They're there to protect you because a person has lost their way regarding a subject matter in their life. So they need protection, even if they know, the spirit knows this person is not ready to do exactly what we're going to prescribe. We're going to protect them in the process. Now, there is an Odu, or a few of them maybe, that speaks to if the person doesn't sacrifice themselves, meaning if they don't check themselves, if they don't do their own sacrifice within themselves, even an Ebo won't protect them anymore. That means that you know better, but you're not doing better. That's when they have to wash their hands. Again, that's when the car has to break down and get on the side of the road and you got to call AAA. That's when your engine stops working. Because the centerpiece, the focal point of this whole spiritual thing that we call Ifa, or whatever it is you do, is malfunctioning. And we got to lift up the hood to see what we need to fix and reconnect to. What wire has come loose? What part of the engine is broken down we need to replace? These things are all detailed in your character and how people experience you and how you come across to the world. The focal point of this whole thing is, all I'm saying, y'all, is you. Tupac said it's all about you. It is. It's all about you. It's not about the rituals. It's not about these blingy things. It's not about the initiations. It's not about the babalaos. It's not about a festival. It's not about this offering you left at the lake. It's not about that. The purpose of all of this is you figuring out who in the world you are and what your purpose is, and living with that despite what's going on around you. Even when you're in the trenches and when you're in hell's kitchen, it doesn't matter. It's about you figuring out who in the world are you. You are the star player in this game called life. It's you. And you is not your legs, your arms, your toes, your feet, your private parts. That's not you. That's a part of you. You exist right here because none of this can work without this. This is the only thing you can't really replace. You can have another heart transplant. You can have a liver transplant. You can sew up your arm and the skin will grow back. You can break a bone, but break your mind and see what happens. Lose your mind and see what happens. That's because everything is centered, is the focal point. The focal point around this whole thing called life, y'all, is here. Get that in your head. Burn that into your memory. It is all about you, in the words of Tupac. I want to extend some help to anyone who has heard this message that really feels strongly about what's been said. If you have any questions, please inbox me here. I will make sure I answer anybody's questions. But the focal point to this, all of this stuff, y'all, is ORI. If you got some issues in your life and you're having some troubles, the first answer is not to run to something outside of you. It's internal. You just have to be willing and strong enough to look it in the mirror and face it. Let's face it, a lot of people are not that strong at this point. We like to run away from the situation that's right in our face. We know it exists, but it seems too much of a heavy lifting job for us to pick it up and do it ourselves. So we got to make sure that we put something else on it because we don't feel we are capable of doing it. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Be confident in who you are. Be confident in what you know, especially if you're a person who claimed to be initiated and a priest in this situation. What did you do it for then? If you're not able to do it, then what are you doing this for? What did you get initiated for? What are you on the mat for? Could it be you don't know that it's all about you? Could it be that you don't know that ORI is the star player in this equation? This is why I go so hard on ORI, y'all. ORI is the number one situation that we need to have on our side at all times. ORI is the only thing we have when the door is shut and we in the dark by ourselves and we got our cry towel out, we hit the floor and we are in pain and we are sobbing or we are happy or we are joyous or on top of the world. When no one else is around, when the lights go off and the curtains close, we are all by ourselves. This is the only thing that goes with us everywhere that we have to go and every experience that we have to have in this life, no matter where you are. Only thing you're always going to have is your mind. Your greatness in this life can only go as high as the caliber and the quality of your mind. Period. Period in the story. Everything else can help you, but it will never, ever, ever be able to do it for you. I am Baba Makanjuola, y'all. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you being here with me. Listen, checking out this another episode of Change Your Mind. I want you to change your mind on this concept. Know that you are enough. Know that you have everything that you have been built here and put here to do. Every animal on this planet knows what it's supposed to do because it's already in its mind and it hasn't been tainted by colonialisms and societies and universities and all these other things. They haven't been tainted. Only thing that has come into contact with those concepts have been tainted, like dogs and cats. You know what I mean? If they come in contact with people, they basically can't be themselves anymore. And that's kind of where we have fallen into, a lot of people. Okay? We got to break that. Your mind is that main thing that is driving this force of any spirituality. It is the focal point of every spiritual practice. Investigate that. Embrace that. Live that. Learn that. Know that. And do that better than you've been doing. I am Baba Makanjuola. I shizzle. You see the shirt, right? I shizzle. What's up, LA? How everybody doing at home? I shizzle. I'm out, y'all. Peace.